Welcome back to Note Lab Mode. Some really interesting research crossed my desk this week, and well, I thought we just had to dive into it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's all about AI, and more specifically, Meta's just launched this new thing,
Mm-hmm.
Llama 4.
Llama 4, yeah, they're next generation open source AI models.
That's right, open source.
Really interesting stuff.
Yeah, so there are three kind of key players that we're going to talk about today.
Mhm.
Scout, Maverick, and Behemoth.
Behemoth, yeah, the big one.
So looking through your research, what really stood out to me and what I think is going to be super fascinating for everyone listening is how much these models can handle at once, like the amount of information
Right.
and this whole multimodality thing.
Yeah, the context length.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So not just text, but also working with images and videos.
Absolutely. I mean, just being able to process and understand those longer streams of information and then like weaving together text with visuals.
Right.
Really exciting possibilities.
Yeah. So before we get into how they're doing this, I just want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor.
Sure.
Today's Deep Dive is brought to you by CloudFit.ai.
CloudFit.
CloudFit connects influencer outfits directly to your product inventory, making their content instantly shoppable.
Wow.
Yeah, so it drives more sales and higher order value.
That's smart.
So that's CloudFit.ai.
Okay.
CLOUTFIT.ai.
Got it.
All right, so getting back to Llama 4,
Yeah.
what are the key advancements here, and what does this all mean for how we use AI?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's helpful to start with like the big picture of this whole Llama 4 family.
Okay.
You know, Meta's really framing this as the next step in their commitment to making leading AI openly accessible, like to everyone.
Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO, he's been really vocal about open source AI being the way forward. And you can definitely see Llama 4 as like a cornerstone of that strategy.
Yeah, it feels like a strong statement for sure.
For sure.
And I think it's pretty amazing that they've already released two of the models, Llama 4 Scout and Llama 4 Maverick. You can go download them right now
I know, it's wild.
from the Llama website and from Hugging Face.
Yeah, and it's not even just for developers.
Yeah.
These are already being used
Yeah.
in WhatsApp and Instagram.
That's such a good point because these aren't just research projects.
Right.
Like these are actually being used in real-world applications.
Exactly. They're in the wild.
Yeah.
So then there's Llama 4 Behemoth, which is almost mythical.
It does sound mythical.
Almost like out of Lord of the Rings, you know?
Yeah.
And it's this future model that is going to be so powerful, and it's designed to sort of guide and teach the other models.
A Peacher model.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's a wild concept, right?
What does that even mean?
Makes you wonder how smart and efficient AI can even get.
Yeah. What's next?
Exactly.
Okay, so this is something new for Meta.
Mm-hmm.
With Llama 4, they're using this mixture of experts framework.
Yeah, the MOE.
So what does that mean?
For us normal people,
Yeah.
well, imagine instead of like one giant brain trying to do everything, it's broken down into like a team of specialists.
Oh, okay.
So each expert focuses on a different area. So you might have one that's great at coding, one that understands images,
Okay.
and so on. And then when the model gets a task, it only activates those specific experts that are needed
Okay.
for that problem. And that makes it so much more efficient.
Yeah.
And it lowers the cost of like training and running these models.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So for you, it could mean having like really powerful AI.
Right.
That's actually practical to use.
Yeah, because that's always the bottleneck, isn't it?
Totally.
How much computing power
Yeah.
and all that.
Totally.
Okay, so team of specialists, that makes sense.
Yeah. I like that analogy.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive into the models themselves,
Okay.
starting with Llama 4 Scout.
All right.
This one has a really eye-catching feature.
It does.
I was reading about it in your research.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me more about this.
Llama 4 Scout has a 10 million token context window.
10 million.
10
What
million.
does that even mean?
So that means it can analyze something like 15,000 pages of text.
15,000 pages?
Yeah, in a single pass.
Wow.
Compare that to GPT-4o's context window, which
Yeah.
is 128,000 tokens.
So this is like a huge,
It's a whole other
a
level.
whole other level.
Yeah, imagine analyzing these massive data sets or like incredibly long
They
documents.
can't even imagine.
It's crazy.
15,000 pages.
Yeah.
So how did they do this?
Like, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah.
Well, the core technology here is something called the IRO-PE architecture.
IRO-PE.
Yeah, it stands for interleaved attention layers without positional embeddings and inference time temperature scaling.
Okay.
So essentially, this new architecture allows the model to stay focused and really understand even across those super long sequences of information. Because older models, they would kind of lose track of details. You give them that much, and it's just like, what am I even looking at anyway?
Right. Yeah, it's too much data.
Yeah,
Okay, so I row P, that's the magic.
that's the magic.
But it's not just about making the window bigger.
Right.
It's about making sure the model can actually understand everything in that space.
Right, exactly.
And even with this massive capacity, Scout is still designed to be efficient, right?
Exactly. It's got 17 billion active parameters
Okay.
out of 109 billion total.
Okay.
And it utilizes a 16 expert MoE. So what's really cool is that it's designed to run on a single GPU.
Wow.
I mean, Mark Zuckerberg himself was talking about it. He was like, it's extremely fast. It's designed to run on a single GPU.
Wow.
And so, that means that even if you don't have this massive computing infrastructure, you can still use it.
Yeah, so it makes it more accessible.
Right.
That's amazing.
And your research even called it the highest performing small model in its class.
Yeah, it did.
They're really putting it out there.
It seems like it.
Yeah, and the data actually backs it up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was pre-trained and post-trained with the 256,000 token context length.
Okay.
So already at that stage, it's learning how to handle these long sequences. And then when it generalizes to those bigger lengths during use,
Right.
it already knows what it's doing.
So it wasn't just given a bigger window, it was taught how to use it.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
So your research also mentions the needle in a haystack tests.
Yes.
What are those? Can you explain why those are important?
Yeah. What are those and why should we care?
Well, those tests are designed to see how well a model can find a specific piece of information.
Okay.
So that's the needle that's hidden in a ton of text.
Okay.
That's the haystack. And Scout was really good at those tests.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Both for text and code recall, and that's within the 10 million token context.
Wow.
So for you, that means if you're working with like legal documents, research papers, huge code bases, Scout can quickly find the fact or detail you need.
That would be a lifesaver.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to do it manually anymore.
That's amazing.
So it would save you so much time.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine being able to pinpoint like one little clause in thousands of pages of legal text.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
It's huge.
That would be life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just text, though, is it?
No, it's not.
What else can Scout work with?
So it can work with video.
Video.
Yeah, up to 20 hours long.
Wow.
But the researchers did note that it had some limitations
Right.
with some complex analysis stuff.
Of course.
But the fact that a model that size can even process video at that length,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and it hints at future possibilities.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's move on to Llama 4 Maverick.
Okay.
So this one is being positioned as Meta's flagship open model.
Yeah, their go-to model for a wide range of tasks.
Right, so the workhorse.
The workhorse, exactly.
So what's going on under the hood?
Well, it has 17 billion active parameters, but it pulls from 400 billion total.
Wow.
And it's all organized within this 128 expert MoE design.
It's got a deep well of knowledge to tap into.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of expertise.
And is it still efficient?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So Meta is making some pretty big claims about how it compares to the competition.
Yeah, I was reading about that. They're really hyping it up.
Yeah, they're saying that Maverick beats GPT-4o and Gemini 2.0 Flash
Wow.
on all benchmarks.
So these aren't just like a couple of tests.
No. This
Wow.
is like, they're talking code generation, logical reasoning, understanding multiple languages, analyzing images, handling long sequences of text.
So basically everything.
Pretty much.
That's a bold statement.
It is a bold statement.
And is the initial performance backing up that claim?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay.
So it quickly rose to second position on the Hugging Face Chatbot Arena leaderboard.
Really?
Yeah, which is really cool because that's community-driven.
Right. It's based on real-world use.
Exactly. It's not just Meta saying it's great.
Right.
People are actually using it and liking it.
So it's getting good feedback.
Yeah.
So its context window isn't as big as Scout's 10 million.
Right.
But at 1 million tokens, it's still pretty impressive.
Oh, for sure.
And it's also natively multimodal.
It is. Yeah.
So tell me more about that.
So Maverick can process up to 8 images
Okay.
alongside text in a single input.
Okay.
And that allows for some really cool multimodal reasoning and understanding
So it can look at images and text at the same time.
at the same time.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and Zuckerberg was saying that it's designed to run on a single host for easy inference.
Right.
So again, it's powerful, but also really practical.
Easy to use.
Exactly.
You were saying something about its performance relative to its cost.
Yeah, so that's another big plus.
Okay.
So the experimental chat version got an ELO score of 1417 on LM Arena,
Okay.
which puts it in second place overall.
Wow.
And they're saying it's getting similar results to DeepSeek V3 on like reasoning and coding,
Oh, wow.
but with less than half the active parameters.
Really?
Yeah, so it's way more cost effective.
So basically it's cheaper and faster.
Yeah.
No.
And just to be clear, Meta is saying that Maverick is outperforming all those other leading models across the board.
That's a really big claim.
It is,
And it'll be interesting to see how it actually performs in the real world.
right? Once more people get their hands on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about the big one.
Yeah, let's talk about Behemoth.
Llama 4 Behemoth.
I mean, the name is pretty fitting.
It is.
More than 2 trillion parameters.
Trillion with a T.
It's hard to even comprehend.
I know, and it has 288 billion active parameters.
With a 16 expert MOE.
16 expert MOE.
Zuckerberg even said, I'm not aware of anyone training a larger model out there.
Right.
Like, it's massive.
Yeah, it's a whole other level.
So what's it for?
Like, what's its purpose?
Yeah,
Well, at least for now, it's a teacher model.
a teacher model.
Yeah, they're using it to train the smaller models.
Like Scout and Maverick.
Exactly. Like imagine a master tutor for the rest of the Llama 4 family.
Okay,
So we might not interact with Behemoth directly,
right.
but we're already seeing its influence in those other models.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And even though it's still under development,
Yeah.
they're saying it's already doing some pretty amazing things.
Oh, yeah. They're claiming it's the highest performing base model in the world.
And it's not even done yet.
Not even done.
Wow.
And they're saying it outperforms models like GPT-4.5, Claude Sonnet 3.7, and Gemini 2.0 Pro.
Wow.
And they're focusing on STEM fields for those evaluations.
Oh, wow. So science and technology?
Yeah, exactly.
So problem solving.
Exactly. And it's not even done training yet.
That's crazy.
It really is.
So it sounds like they used it to train Scout and Maverick?
Yeah, they used a technique called distillation.
Distillation.
Yeah, it's basically transferring knowledge.
So they took all that knowledge from Behemoth
Yeah,
and put it into the smaller model.
exactly.
That's so cool.
It's like downloading information straight from the source.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a step back for a minute
Okay.
and talk about the big picture again.
Okay.
So we talked about the mixture of experts architecture.
Right, the MOE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's worth highlighting why that's so important.
Okay, why is that?
Because it's all about efficiency. So it activates only the parts that are relevant to the specific task, which makes it way more efficient than those old school models.
Right.
So for you, that means faster processing and less energy consumption.
So basically it's faster and cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's amazing.
It's like having a specialized team where you only bring in the experts you need,
Right.
so you don't have everyone standing around doing nothing.
Exactly. Okay, so that's the MOE.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole context window revolution.
Yeah.
Especially with Scout's 10 million tokens.
Right.
And the IROP architecture.
Yeah.
So tell me more about IROP. Like, how does that even work?
So it's a new way of handling like the position of words and elements in a sequence.
Okay.
So the model can process and understand information across these really long contexts
Right.
without getting lost.
Okay.
Because it knows where everything is.
Okay, so it's like a really good filing system.
Yeah, it keeps everything organized.
Okay, that's really cool.
And then there's the native multimodality.
Yeah. Yes. How does Llama 4 manage to blend all these different types of data?
So it's through early fusion.
Early fusion.
Yeah. So text and visual information are processed together right from the start.
Okay.
And they use this optimized vision encoder
Okay.
that's derived from their MetaKeylab technology.
Okay.
So the model really understands the relationships between text and images.
And maybe even video in the future.
Yeah, potentially.
That's really cool.
It's like teaching the AI to see the world the way we do.
Right.
So it can process multiple images at the same time, and it can do what's called image grounding.
Image grounding. What's that?
So it can accurately link textual descriptions to specific parts of an image.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you describe something in the image, the AI knows exactly where to look.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so this could lead to some really intuitive ways to interact with AI
Yeah.
using both text and visuals.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Okay, so based on all this research,
Yeah.
where does Llama 4 stand in terms of performance and benchmarks?
Right. So as he said, Meta claims that Maverick outperforms those other leading models.
GPT-4o and Gemini 2.0 Flash
Yeah, exactly.
across all those benchmarks.
Across the board.
And they had that early performance on the Hugging Face chatbot arena.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of validates it.
Yeah, exactly.
What about Behemoth?
So Behemoth is supposedly outperforming other top models
Okay.
in those STEM evaluations.
Right.
So science and technology.
And both Scout and Maverick seem to be really efficient.
Yeah,
They're designed to run on single hardware setups.
right, exactly. So they're more accessible to people.
Right.
So Llama 4 Scout is the best multimodal model in its size class
Okay.
and more powerful than the older Llama models.
Right.
And it fits on a single NVIDIA H100 GPU.
Okay.
And Maverick's the same. It's the best multimodal model in its class.
Okay.
And it's been trained on a much larger and more diverse multilingual data set than Llama 3.
Really?
Yeah. So it's been trained on a massive amount of text
Wow.
in over 200 languages.
That's a...
Yeah, so that should really help it understand and generate text in a bunch of different languages.
So this could be useful for people who work with a lot of multilingual content.
Definitely.
So considering all these advancements, what are the bigger strategic implications of Llama 4?
That's a big question.
Yeah, what does it mean for Meta?
Well, it really shows that Meta is committed to open source AI.
Okay.
I mean, Zuckerberg really believes that open source is going to drive innovation.
Yeah.
And the fact that their Llama models have already been downloaded over 1 billion times.
A billion.
1 billion times.
That's incredible.
It really shows the momentum
Yeah.
and the community that they built around open source.
And with Llama 4, it seems like things are just going to accelerate even more.
Yeah, for sure.
So enhanced performance and accessibility.
Exactly.
This could really empower developers, researchers, even individuals
Mm.
to build cool new applications.
Yeah, and by making these powerful models free
Right.
and easier to run, they're making it easier for people to use this cutting-edge AI.
And they're putting a lot of money into AI infrastructure.
Oh yeah, tons.
So they're really committed.
Definitely.
So for anyone listening who wants to use Llama 4,
Yeah.
what do they need to know about the licensing and the hardware?
Right, so the licensing agreement has a few things you got to be aware of.
Okay, like what?
So companies with over 700 million monthly active users,
Okay.
they have to get a special commercial license from Meta.
Okay, so that's for the big companies.
Right, exactly.
What about smaller companies and individuals?
So there's also a requirement to say built with Llama
Okay.
on anything that's powered by these models.
Okay, so that's pretty standard.
Yeah, just so people know where it came from.
Right.
Okay, so now hardware.
Yeah, what kind of computer do you need?
So even though Llama 4 is designed to be efficient,
Right.
it might not run well on a normal computer,
Okay.
especially if it has limited memory.
Right.
So you might need a higher-end desktop or workstation, especially for Scout. But for Maverick and the bigger models,
Right.
you'll probably need a dedicated GPU.
Okay, so you might need to upgrade your computer.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay, so looking ahead, what's next for Llama 4?
Well, they've already announced that there's going to be a Llama 4 reasoning model.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and that's going to be for complex problem-solving tasks.
Okay.
And Behemoth is still being developed,
Right.
so we can probably expect even more improvements.
Yeah.
And maybe even more models.
Potentially even more powerful.
Yeah.
It feels like we're just at the beginning.
Yeah, it feels like a really pivotal moment for AI.
It does. So the key takeaway here,
Yeah,
Llama 4 represents a big jump forward in AI,
for sure.
especially with Scout's ability to process tons of information
Yeah, 10 million tokens.
and Maverick's multimodal performance.
Yeah,
So think about what this all means for your work.
yeah.
Think about the possibilities with these new AI tools.
And how those expanded context windows can change how you work with data,
Yeah.
and how multimodality can create more intuitive ways to interact with AI.
So AI can handle more data than ever before.
Yeah.
It understands different forms of information.
Mm-hmm.
What new tools can we even imagine?
That's the exciting part.
It really is.
It really is.
So if you like today's deep dive into Llama 4, please share it.
Yeah,
And don't forget to subscribe to Note Lab Mode for more deep dives.
absolutely.
Thanks for listening.